The only way from down the line that I can create any strike is to lift the handle and back up. That's why I'm hitting everything thin. I have no chance. It's that series of compensations that I now have to make by a very poorly executed first few inches of the backswing. All right guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about faults and fixes, how we can identify the faults we make and how we can intervene and create fixes for them. Today we're going to be using our HackMotion device to explain some of the ways in which we can set ourselves up for success. We know that the golf swing is very much a link, a chain of good or badly sequenced movements. And the earlier that we can sort of place successful patterns into our golf swing, the higher chances are of a good outcome in the end. All right, guys, we're going to give you some examples of some very common faults that we see in the golf swing. You know, we see the same things all the time, you know, on the lesson tee or even just up and down the range. We see people that have the same faults, very commonly taking that golf club kind of on the inside too early, needing to then reroute it and thinking to themselves, why am I an over-the-top golfer? Generally, it starts very early in the swing and it's just a series of compensations further down the chain. So we're going to talk a little bit about today how we're going to use the HackMotion to give us the feedback that we're doing things either right or wrong. At the end of the day, that's what feedback device, something like a HackMotion, is so key for, that you don't have to have supervised practice every time you're on the driving range. It would be wonderful if we all had our coach or whoever we work with eyes on us every time we hit balls, but that's expensive. It's not probably conducive for your time or theirs. And a feedback device like this just gives you a sort of boundary either side so you can stay nicely in the lanes. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those backswing challenges. All right, so for the slicers out there, we're going to talk to you first. And a lot of the problems that we'll see in the lesson tee will be either slicing or the compensations from a slice pattern. So if we look at today, again, as we talked about the inside takeaway in the backswing leading to the steepness in the downswing. Shallow in the swing is a big, big buzz term, and you know everyone aspires to have that lovely trace of the club going through the forearm. Well, the reality is not everyone needs that. So, you know, I really guard against trying to follow a trend like that because you don't know whether you need it or not. Do you have the other pieces in your swing that match a shallow shaft on the way down? An open face and a shallow shaft is a disaster. A slightly more closed face and a shallow shaft, nice matchup. That's how I think about the golf swing. Got to have the right sequence of matchups in order to bring you success. So in this first sort of sequence, we're going to use the HackMotion. As you can see, we're live in the recording there. We've got the live feedback. We're going to make some swings. Then we're going to take the feedback, the diagnosis from HackMotion and see what it is our tendencies are. And I'm going to overdo, obviously, the swing motion in order to prove the point. Okay, inside, over the top, too shallow, thin. You see how that plays havoc with low point control. You know, really tough to take a div. I'm going to hit these balls at the same spot, but because I'm coming inside, over the top, the only way from down the line that I can create any strike is to lift the handle and back up. That's why I'm hitting everything thin. I have no chance. It's that series of compensations that I now have to make by a very poorly executed first few inches of the backswing. Kind of forcing that wrist into too much extension. We get our feedback, which I love about this, to be honest, and we've kind of said that we were going to mimic a poor takeaway. 80% of my issue here is a poor takeaway. It actually gives me a prompted drill to how to work on that takeaway and stop that club sort of getting too far on the inside. So we're now going to pivot into doing a little bit of practice relative to that. All right, so as we work on the fixes, where we've got the face open, just a reminder, guys, a bowed wrist is flexion, cupped wrist is extension. It's definitely going to, key us and cue us in on that one, that we want to fix this as we make a better backswing. So let's get to work on that, and our fixes using the wrist sensor as a feedback device. So really we want to get to the point where on the backswing, we've got the chest turning, club head staying. If we were looking directly down the line, the club head slightly outside the hands, and as we continue to turn, we're in a really nice neutral position. Something we really talked about in the Pro Sender video with David and Sean was the importance of a neutral sort of wrist position. And there's some people, Freddie Couples, Dustin Johnson the other way, who have played with extreme wrist conditions. But generally speaking, we love to see the nice neutral Justin Roses and Adam Scotts and those types of guys that have just, a really, really nice baseline to create fantastic motion. It's one of the reasons we admire their swings so much, because that effortless look is bound from a great sequence of movements. So let's see if we can get a little bit less of that cupping, that extension as we move away. See if we can change that to green. And as I say, we're not taking that club inside anymore. One rehearsal, club head outside the hands, excellent. Better. Okay, in range. So we went from having, 15 degrees of, and it gives us some boundaries, 15 degrees of too much cupping, too much extension. It was at 34 degrees. Now we are down at 11, 34 to 11, right? Much, much, much better. Quad data on that one there, Case, what was the result of that better movement?
107 peak height, 6,700 spin.
Beautiful.
118 ball speed, 119 ball speed actually.
That's what we want. Okay, let's do one more. So again, using the device, keeping an eye on it. Whether you've got a quad or not, I've got the fortunate position of I get feedback here and here, but if I just get feedback here and feedback down range, that's going to be enough for me to know that, I'm making that progress. Okay, club head outside the hands. We're not getting inside early, not having to make that adjustment. That was the biggest problem for me before. I would take it inside early, get steep in the downswing, raise the handle, the club head, the toe would be in the ground. It's the biggest thing that's impacted the fact I don't need to sort of get my lie angles upright anymore. Nice neutral ball flight. Okay. Wrist there, 9 degrees of flexion at the top. Really, really good. Giving me now actually a little bit of extension as we come into impact. What we want, the target being 22 degrees of lead wrist extension, bowing, whatever you want to call it. I was at 19 there. Let's see what we were before. Yeah, benchmark being 0 to 25 degrees of bowed wrist. I was at 9, not even close. So one flaw that could definitely if we get into intervene early in that backswing, we can then set ourselves up for success by keeping that club on plane as we go on throughout the swing. Another common problem that we see, and I struggle with, to be honest, is the casting that we see from a lot of people. A real sort of energy drain within the swing if we are just throwing away those angles on the downswing and not sort of retaining any of that nice forward shaft lean. So one of the things that we see people do when they sort of early in the backswing is start to create too much wrist hinge too early, and then they throw it on the downswing trying to create space. They never created that space on the downswing that gave them the incentive to then get a little bit narrower and have that club moving a little bit more towards them, or that appearance of the club moving towards them. It actually doesn't. It's very constant, but we certainly don't want players working within a tight radius in the backswing and then having to create room on the downswing and throwing it. So we'll demonstrate a couple like that I think is something else that really people struggle with that happens early in the backswing. You see that very much that throwaway on the way down. Actually, there's, if anything, I could feel myself there want to move back. You know, these reactions are what you need to do, not what you want to do. I think sometimes Ryan Hawley said it great. We were in Braden's teaching facility back there, and you know, he said that the flaws we have in our swing have to be there because somewhere down the chain we're making a mistake that has caused that to be the compensation. It's not that we do these things voluntarily. We are doing them as a sort of way of trying to hit the best shot we can. The body's only trying its best. So if we give it no room in the downswing with a narrow backswing, what chance have you got? Of course, you know, you're going to have to spring sort of, you know, back to try and create width that you get a little bit more room in the downswing. Let's do that one more time. Absolutely, you know, very common. You would see somebody spring back, hit behind it, really not create any compression at all. All right, let's give the fix to that. Let's get wider. Let's give ourselves the incentive to get left. On that backswing, that poor narrow backswing, we had nothing but an incentive to create width. I want you, if you are a caster like me, I want you to create more width in the backswing, so you have to get a little bit narrower in the downswing. Nice wide stance. Really going to feel like we create a stretch across our body. And as we get to lead arm parallel, left arm parallel for the right-handers, we do start to sort of see that recentering, right? And as you see that recentering, what's the club doing? Moving back towards me. And as I bring in the rotational piece, that's going to bring me into that fantastic impact position. Divot is ahead of the ball, rotated body, penetrating ball flight, much, much stronger. So let's have a look at that. Width in the backswing to create a stronger impact. Tough for me to hit it any better than that. You know, and as I exaggerate that, that's going to bring my flight down. Case, that was probably, what, 85 feet, 80 feet?
82.
82, right? So I'm trying to exaggerate for the purpose of the video. That has brought my ball flight down about 20 feet. When you've got an incentive to go left, get into that stronger position, you know, it's the sequence of events that creates the impact interval. Okay, so let's show you that one more time. Wide base. We create that stretch. And as that club gets the lead arm parallel, we are recentering. That's going to then allow us to then rotate and push. Beautiful impact. Drive it through. Swing is really nicely sequenced. Start to get that divot after the ball. Much, much better launch conditions and something that will really, really help. I'm not thinking about the downswing. That's the key to this whole thing. For those of you who don't know the sort of order at which the skull swing works, we've got about 1.2 seconds to make all this work. Good luck trying to think your way through that. We've got about a second of that, maybe just under a second, 0.9 of a second in the backswing. We've got about a third of a second on the downswing. That's why the importance of getting the swing in order in the backswing to create a better downswing. Your odds are far higher in achieving that on the backswing, getting your house in order, than you are on the downswing, guys. So hopefully that's two ways we can get the feedback from HackMotion that we can show that we are either casting, you can do all the different drills, the guided drills, it's incredible feedback that you guys can get. But know that the earlier you intervene, the earlier you get yourself in the right sequence, the better your chance are is just to freewheel it and hit great golf shots. So a feedback device like HackMotion will really, really help with that, guys. Again, so you're not having to invest in lesson after lesson after lesson. Take the knowledge, go away and work on it, get the feedback. Hopefully next time you see a coach a month or two down the line, you've made that progress, you can take the next step. That's what practice and productive practice should look like. All right, guys, so as always, please leave your comments below. We love to hear from you and your thoughts on videos like this, the educational tutorial style videos that give you guys some things to think about that maybe you hadn't thought about in that sequence before. So please use the comments section, interact with one another, share your experiences with us. We really, really enjoy that. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you again soon.